Caitlin. No, Caitlin Clark isn't just talented, she's a cultural force. Many already believe she's on track to become the biggest star in women's sports and the most electric player college basketball has ever produced. When Nike released its newest commercial featuring Clark, most viewers focused on the obvious, her deep shooting range and fearless swagger. But beneath the surface, something far more strategic was unfolding. This wasn't simply about celebrating logo threes. It was about signaling a shift that could redefine the future of women's basketball. Massive financial backing, celebrity appearances, and cinematic storytelling were only the wrapping. The real message pointed toward 2026 and a transformation far greater than a signature shoe debut. Hidden in plain sight, the ad functions like a blueprint. Once you recognize it, the direction of the WNBA suddenly makes sense. Stay locked in, because what Nike unveiled has insiders quietly recalibrating their expectations. The commercial begins with skepticism. Familiar faces question whether her shots are wise, whether her confidence borders on reckless. Clark answers the doubt the only way she knows how, by delivering. At first glance, it feels like a classic underdog sports narrative. But look closer. Nike wasn't just capturing highlights, they were documenting a mindset. Clark grew up practicing on a slanted driveway in Iowa, reportedly asking her father to remove grass so she could paint a complete three-point arc. Not because it looked cool. Not because it was trendy. Because she refused to let limitations define her growth. Most young athletes adapt to imperfect conditions. Clark redesigned hers. That decision reveals everything about how she approaches obstacles. She doesn't maneuver around restrictions, she eliminates them. Cold Midwest winters, uneven concrete tilting downhill, most families would have considered the project unnecessary. Her father, Brent Clark, recognized something different in his daughter. From a very young age, he saw that she demanded excellence on her own terms. Pouring that concrete wasn't about home renovation. It was about building possibility. Shooting uphill changes mechanics, alters release angles, and disrupts muscle memory. Many players would simply adjust. Clark questioned why she should train around flaws instead of removing them altogether. That philosophy separates productive athletes from transformative ones. Productive players maximize what exists. Transformative players reshape the environment itself. At every new level, high school, college, professional, critics repeated the same concern. It won't work here. Analysts wondered if deep-range shooting would survive against faster rotations and stronger defenders. Transitioning from college to the WNBA is notoriously difficult. The pace sharpens, defensive schemes tighten, and veterans bring global experience. Skeptics predicted that professional defenses would neutralize her range. Instead, Clark bent the geometry of the game. Defenders couldn't sag off because she would fire from 30 feet. Trapping high left driving lanes exposed. Press coverage created seams she exploited instantly. Entire scouting reports centered on containing her presence rather than merely limiting production. For most guards, those distances would be labeled poor shot selection. For Clark, they were calculated efficiency, skills honed during thousands of repetitions on that Iowa driveway. While others polished mid-range craft, she expanded the outer boundaries of threat. Guard her tightly at 28 feet and she attacks the rim. Back up and she launches from the logo. She learned early that space is flexible and distance is strategic. Nike understood that blueprint. The structure of the commercial mirrors her journey. Doubt introduced, doubt dismantled, never through debate, only through performance. The celebrities questioning her in the ad symbolize every analyst and coach who wondered whether her style would translate. Her response has always been identical. No explanations, just execution. The financial ripple effects reinforce the narrative. Clark's rookie season generated an estimated $36 million in economic impact, nearly 27% of the league's measurable growth, even while she missed time due to a groin injury. That figure reflects movement. Ticket surges in visiting arenas, merchandise spikes, television ratings climbing during her appearances. One player, not even at full health, shifting business metrics across an entire league. So the commercial wasn't just branding. It was a forecast. Nike wasn't highlighting shooting range. They were spotlighting a mindset capable of altering competitive structure and economic scale simultaneously. When you decode it, the message becomes clear. This isn't a moment, it's a transition. And if 2026 delivers on the signals embedded in that campaign, women's basketball won't simply grow. It will evolve. Attendance dropped noticeably in games she missed. This wasn't hype or hopeful forecasting, it was economists tracking measurable activity. Hotels filled up. Restaurants near arenas doubled their usual game night revenue. Jersey sales climbed sharply. That $36 million figure wasn't limited to ticket receipts. It reflected full-scale economic motion. Businesses surrounding arenas reported playoff-level traffic during ordinary regular season matchups. Visiting cities experienced hotel sellouts they had rarely seen for women's basketball. Parking revenue increased. Merchandise vendors recorded historic numbers. Analysts weren't projecting possibilities, they were documenting real transactions and new spending patterns that emerged after one player entered the league. The deeper implication sits inside that 27% statistic. The entire WNBA, spanning 12 franchises and decades of history, generated roughly $133 million in economic impact that season. One rookie accounted for more than a quarter of it. Not because she played a flawless season, she missed games while recovering from a groin injury. Not because she dominated statistically every night, she was adjusting to professional pace like any first-year guard. Yet her presence alone shifted financial behavior across multiple markets. Television executives reacted quickly. Matchups featuring her team drew viewership comparable to select NBA regular season broadcasts. Advertisers who previously overlooked WNBA inventory suddenly pursued commercial slots. Streaming platforms reported record engagement numbers. Social media impressions surged beyond any previous league benchmarks. This wasn't incremental growth. It was immediate acceleration sparked by a single arrival. For the first time, the league possessed concrete evidence that one athlete could materially influence its business framework. Evidence reshapes negotiations. Sponsors can't argue limited audience when ratings contradict them. Broadcast partners can't undervalue rights when numbers justify premiums. Arena operators can't question demand when seats consistently sell out. Clark didn't simply perform, she became leverage. Nike monitored those figures closely. Where others saw a temporary surge, Nike identified structural potential. The $36 million represented new consumers, families and young fans engaging with the WNBA for the first time. Girls saw possibility reflected in her story. Households bought merchandise and invested emotionally in outcomes. That number wasn't a peak, it was a starting point. She generated it while injured, while adapting, while learning professional systems. Imagine the multiplier once she's fully healthy, seasoned, and integrated into team chemistry. Nike's campaign didn't celebrate past performance, it signaled future inevitability. They were communicating to investors and sponsors alike. This growth compounds. By spring 2026, her first signature shoe enters an ecosystem she's already proven she can move. The momentum exists. The demand exists. Nike isn't speculating, they're scaling documented traction. Yet her approach to that shoe diverges from tradition. Most signature lines rely on scarcity, limited releases, premium pricing, exclusivity driving resale culture. That blueprint built empires. But Clark challenged it. Her shoe isn't designed as a collector's artifact, it's built for real courts in real communities. Nike CEO Elliott Hill confirmed the line is being developed with her input at every level: branding, design, distribution. Her guiding principle: access over exclusivity. She resisted artificial scarcity and pricing models that exclude young athletes. In men's basketball, exclusivity works because participation and visibility are already massive. Girls' basketball is still expanding. Many young players face financial, cultural, and social obstacles their male counterparts do not. Restricting access would reinforce the very barriers she's worked to dismantle. Instead, she wants global distribution from day one, including key markets like China, positioned not as a test but as a pillar. Industry projections suggest 9-figure revenue potential, possibly placing her franchise among the top 5 basketball signature lines across genders. Still, Clark speaks less about profit and more about reach. Nike's analysts eventually recognize the math. Broader distribution drives volume, and volume offsets thinner margins. Cultivating 8-year-old customers builds decades of loyalty. This philosophy mirrors her playing style: expand space, don't confine it. When she shoots from 30 feet, she challenges conventional range. When she pushes for accessible pricing, she challenges conventional market segmentation. Nike could have rushed the launch during rookie year buzz. Marketing theory encourages immediate capitalization on momentum. Instead, they delayed until spring 2026, 18 months after her debut. That timeline reveals intention. They're constructing infrastructure, not chasing headlines. By then, she'll be fully healthy. League expansion and media deals will further amplify exposure. Most importantly, her second season will validate sustainability. Rookie success can be dismissed as novelty. Sophomore production confirms durability against defensive adjustments. Nike studied historical precedents carefully. The original Air Jordan 1 didn't launch at random. It followed deliberate narrative building around Michael Jordan. The same long-term positioning shaped LeBron James' early signature rollout. Timing transformed footwear into cultural franchise. Nike is applying that lesson here. 2 full seasons of ratings data, economic metrics, and audience growth provide foundation rather than flash. This patience signals conviction. They're not releasing a product, they're launching a multi-year global platform. When spring 2026 arrives, the ground will be prepared: sustained viewership, documented financial cycles, and a global fan base already invested. The commercial itself wasn't simply advertising. It was narrative architecture. Celebrities symbolized skepticism. Clark embodied evidence. The shots represented expanded boundaries. The deeper message wasn't about distance or hype, it was about inevitability. Professional stardom in the WNBA isn't remarkable solely because of talent. It stands out because of how she confronts resistance. "That won't work" was never a conclusion in her story, it was simply feedback demanding sharper execution. She treats barriers as temporary friction, not permanent limits. Nike recognized that this mindset extends beyond the court. It mirrors entrepreneurial instinct, the mentality that builds movements instead of just individual success. Look closely at the commercial's rhythm. Doubt appears. A shot is taken. The shot falls. Skepticism adjusts. Then the cycle repeats. With each repetition, the stakes rise and the skepticism weakens until hesitation eventually shifts into respect. Nike wasn't marketing long-range shooting ability, they were highlighting the discipline of changing opinions through consistent proof. That formula extends beyond one athlete. Women's basketball has endured decades of dismissal, claims that it wouldn't draw ratings, wouldn't generate revenue, wouldn't sustain professional leagues. Clark's reported $36 million economic impact functions like that decisive shot, tangible evidence forcing narratives to evolve. The planned 2026 signature shoe release represents the next stage of that sequence: higher stakes, broader scrutiny, and fresh validation. The brilliance of the campaign lies in its restraint. It doesn't argue that women's basketball has value, it demonstrates how value emerges when performance meets opportunity. It subtly shows that global markets respond when women's sports receive meaningful support, and that economic models thrive when infrastructure aligns with audience demand. By embedding this message beneath highlight clips and celebrity appearances, Nike achieved layered storytelling. Casual viewers enjoy the spectacle, while industry observers detect a strategic roadmap. That dual communication is sophisticated branding. The company didn't release a simple advertisement, they revealed direction. A clear signal that 2026 could become the inflection point analysts reference in hindsight. Clark's progression from a slanted driveway to a global footwear platform isn't just personal success. It's proof of concept for young athletes watching worldwide. The $36 million figure wasn't a limit, it established a baseline. Choosing broader access over exclusivity wasn't weakness, it was expansion strategy. Delaying the launch wasn't reluctance, it was timing with intent. Every detail reflects deliberate architecture. What looked like a highlight reel was, in reality, documentation of structural change. What follows may push women's basketball into arenas once considered exclusive to men's leagues, global branding strength, franchise valuations climbing, and cultural resonance extending beyond box scores. Clark isn't merely competing anymore, she's redefining expectations. According to Nike's blueprint, the shift isn't approaching, it has already begun. Many just didn't recognize the moment as it unfolded.